Good afternoon and welcome to our lab presentation video on our colorful liquids lab. In this lab, we're going to be measuring different quantities of liquids in our primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, with the idea of getting our secondary colors, orange, green, and purple, and seeing a spectrum of color based on this information. Let's begin. Our idea today is to follow some basic generic setup like we see here on our board. We're going to start with 19 mils of A, 18 mils of C, and 18 mils of B. The way we're going to perform the measurements is we're going to start with our graduated cylinder. Our graduated cylinder is measured up to 50 milliliters, and I'm going to use the pipette to transfer the liquids over to the cylinder. Let's start with 19. As you can see, I'm getting very, very close to our final measurement. Let's grab a couple more milliliters and put into the graduated cylinder. You can see I'm getting very close, but you also might notice I'm not looking directly at the mark. I want to get down and be very precise where my measurement is going to be. It appears I need at least one more drop, maybe two. Let's continue going down. My goal here is to avoid any parallax error. You might notice that I'm getting really far down, and you can see I'm still off by almost a whole milliliter. Let's squeeze some more into the container. Now, I'm actually just about where I'm supposed to be, perhaps a milliliter, maybe a drop or two too much. Squeezing a tiny amount out, again, looks like I have a pretty good measurement. I'm going to put that into A, this beaker here being A. I'm going to continue along doing the other three main measurements, and then we'll come back to look at what's going to happen next. As I get close to my third measurement, I have a little too much blue. So grabbing a pipette here, I'm able to squeeze out a little bit at a time, continually check. Here, we've got 18. I'm going to pour this into E. You can see now that I've got a nice, pretty array of colors between the three. Now, we're going to do some further measurements. Here, we have to be careful. The next one, I'm going to take 4 milliliters of C and put it into D. This is going to be approximately 2 pipettes full. I'm going to fill up my pipette, squeeze one in, and then squeeze another. Let's see how close we are. Again, for such small measurements, we have to be very, very careful. That right there is not quite 4. In fact, that's about 3.5. Let's put a little bit more in. Again, the smaller the measurements, the more careful you have to be. That's 4. I'm going to take my 4, I'm going to put it into D. Next up, I'm going to take 7 milliliters of E and put it into D. Again, about 4 pipettes full. Right there, I have 8. So let's take a little bit out and put it back into the beaker. Probably a little bit more than that. Looking carefully here, that looks like it's about 7. So we're going to pour that into D. Now that I've got that in, you might notice there's an immediate color change, as expected. I'm going to give this a little swirl just to mix it together. Let's continue. Next up, I'm going to go over to F. I'm going to put 4 milliliters of the blue into F. I'm going to complete the same procedure for F and G, and we'll come back together. You can see now by adding the 4 and the 7, we get a light purple color, as expected. Next, we're going to do the same thing to beaker B, adding some of A, the red, and the C, the yellow. Now that I've gotten all the colors mixed together, you can see our colors. starting with red, kind of a darker orange color, yellow, green, our original blue color, and kind of a darkish, lightish purple color. The idea with all of these colors is the amount of each we put in influences the colors we produce. As you can see, we get up an array of colors here. Now, to determine whether the measurements are correct, we're going to take each individual beaker and we're going to record its final volume. Let's start with the red. I'm going to take my red here and I'm going to pour it into the beaker, like you see here. Make sure you get all the liquid out, give it a little bit of a shake. Come over here. And I can see from this first one that we have a volume. It looks like our volume is just over the 10 mark. We're looking here at 10.6 for A. Let's do the second one. Let's do orange. Again, make sure you have all the liquid put through. This one right here looks like just over 11.3. I'll continue with the other ones and we'll come back to look at the results. The idea here was that all of the measurements should have been 11 milliliters based off our chart. As you can see, we were pretty close on all the measurements but the first. The first measurement was off about a half a milliliter. This difference in error comes from how we record the measurements. The better the measurements we take, the less error we're going to have in our lab. The point of this activity was to do just that, to get quality measurements. There's a good chance that your measurements might be off from this value, so as low as 9 or 10, or as much as 12 or 13. Those errors are caused by inconsistencies in the way the lab was actually performed. Some tips to help you next time. Use a device to get small amounts of liquids, such as a pipette. Drop by drop gets you very good measurements. When you get the measurement, you want to use the side or the parallax to get the correct measurement. Make sure you're looking at the correct line and be very careful when you measure. Next, when you transfer liquids, make sure you transfer them carefully from one container to another, assuming that all the liquid gets transferred. Finally, the better, more careful work you get, the better your measurement is going to be at the end. In the end, we were able to make such beautiful colors. Everything from red to orange to yellow to green to blue and finally to purple. This has been the lab review for our Colorful Liquids lab. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them here or ask your teacher in class. Have a great day. We'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.